morning to you. I hope you enjoyed some glorious Easter weather yesterday. This is Kay Adams with you till 12 on BBC Radio Scotland, and this is April the 1st, the day that Scotland introduces the hate crime law.
Sticks and stones may break my bones, but words
make me feel hated just for being me.
Hate hurts. If you witness a hate crime, report it.
Well, that's part of the public awareness campaign, and you might also see around about where you live posters urging you, if you witness a hate crime, to report it. But are you clear on what a hate crime is? Do you know what you should and you shouldn't report? 08085 92 95 00 is the number to call. If you've got any questions at all about this new legislation, we do have a legal expert on hand to help, so please do get in touch. A hate crime, Stephen from Macduff, says police haven't got the time resources to carry out existing crimes. How can they be expected to do this when the public know they can't follow up crimes like theft, vandalism, assaults? This country has lost the plot. The country will divide and scenarios will only worsen. I am pretty sure we will return to this discussion. Keep your thoughts coming in. 80295 still to come this morning.
Which is the lowest rank of being a doctor. It basically involves getting shouted at for 16 hours a day and being splashed with bodily fluids.
Yes, that's Adam Kay, the man who brought us This Is Gonna Hurt, the warts and all depiction of life as an NHS doctor in a best-selling book and indeed BAFTA-winning drama. He's going to be here telling us about his new show, which is called Undoctored. And our game of Where is Simon Calder?
Spiked with pain and music is my aeroplane. It's my aeroplane.
Well, where will Simon Calder be this Easter Monday? It doesn't really matter because he's going to be available to answer all of your travel questions, whether it is you're looking for some advice on upcoming plans or perhaps plans gone wrong. Give him a call, 08085 92 95 00. You can text him on 80295, and it is the classic sign of spring.
The sun is beginning to come out, and I have to say, we're delighted to be back here at Chelsea.
Well, heading down to this year's Chelsea Flower Show will be Glasgow mum and daughter florist duo. We'll be speaking to them. Are more simple, repetitive, angry and self-obsessed than before, so we've got a battle of the music generations coming up.
This one is
BBC Radio Scotland.
Listen on BBC Sounds.
So Adam Kay is coming up next. Undoctored was the best-selling show of the Edinburgh Fringe 2023. He'll be telling us about that.
Bum 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 ba da bum 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 ba da bum 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 ba da bum ba da bum 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 ba da bum 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 ba da bum bum ba da bum. Once I had love and I was a gas. Do we do ba do do soon turned out had a heart of glass. Do we do seemed like the real thing only to find much of mistrust, love's gone behind. Once I had love, and it was divine. Ba-dum-dip, ba-dum-dee-da. Soon turned out I was losing my mind. Dwee-doo, dwee-doo. Seemed like the real thing, but I was so blind. Much of mistrust, love's gone behind. Bum, 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 in between. What I find is pleasing, and I'm feeling fine. Love is so confusing, there's no peace of mind. If I fear I'm losing you, it's just no good. You teasing me like you do. Bum, 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 wah, wah. Bum, 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 wah, wah. Once I had love, and I was a guess. Soon turned out that he had a heart of glass. Seemed like the real thing, only to find much of mistrust, love's gone behind. Ba-ba-dum-ba-ba. Lost inside adorable
we've kind of ignored the April Fool's bit of April the 1st today because, of course, we had that legislation to discuss, which is a shame. I love a bit of April Fools. I don't know if any of you out there have been caught out so far, if the pranksters amongst you have managed to catch anyone else out. If you have, then please do get in touch and let us know. 80295. Or have you spotted any good sort of April Fools in the press, on social media? Just before 12 o'clock, we are going to go through the best of the day. I haven't had a chance to get across them myself, but if you've spotted anything that looks a bit dodgy, or maybe you got taken in a little bit, then do let us know. My favourite all-time favourite April Fools, and actually I still have a little bit of disappointment that it wasn't true, actually, and I don't know how many years ago it was, quite a while, but anyway, it was put out there that the wonderful spire at Glasgow University, which I could see if this blind wasn't down, was going to be turned into a helter-skelter. And I remember being very excited at this. I completely missed the fact it was April the 1st at the time. I thought, what a wonderful idea. Isn't that absolutely fabulous? I actually had visions of myself coming down. I go, whee! I love a helter-skelter, me. And I thought, gosh, around that historic building, this is a stroke of genius. Really, really disappointed. Just somebody's shaking their head at me here. I don't know why. Really disappointed just after 12 o'clock that particular April the 1st. I was told, you absolute muppet, don't be so bloomin' ridiculous. Did you really believe that? Yes, I said I did. So have you ever been caught out by an April the 1st fool's joke? Or perhaps you have already this morning. Let's have them. Come on, it's Easter Monday. 80295 is the text number. Now, his first book about life as a junior doctor in the NHS sold more than 3 million copies and was turned into a BAFTA-winning drama series. Both of them absolutely brilliant, I have to say. Really enjoyed both of them. Now, Adam Kay, author of This Is Gonna Hurt, is taking his live show Undoctored on a nationwide tour, including a return to Edinburgh, where it was the best-selling show of last year's Fringe. And Adam joins me now. Good morning, Adam.
Good morning, good morning.
Good morning, and I'm very grateful for you joining us on Easter Monday, because I know you've got 2 youngish kids, so presumably you should be on an Easter egg hunt somewhere, yeah?
They're pre-Easter egg hunt age. They're 1 year old. So I don't need to tell them it's Easter. Don't need to, it's Christmas, birthdays. I can save a fortune.
Oh, I loved that stage of my child's life where you could lie with impunity. It was marvellous. You just made their birthday wherever it was convenient for you.
I'm going to say it's February the 29th.
Brilliant, absolutely brilliant. How long have you been undoctored? I was doing a quick Google this. I remember, This Is Gonna Hurt came out yonks ago, didn't it?
Yeah, that was about 5 years ago, but I've not actually worked as a doctor since 2010, so I've been not a doctor longer than I was a doctor.
Right, okay. And the success of This Is Gonna Hurt, as ever when you launch a book out there, you just don't know, but, were you surprised by its impact?
I was absolutely flabbergasted. I'd worked in telly for a while before my books came out, and so lots of my mates over the years had written books, and I knew what happens, which is you go to a book launch and drink some warm white wine, and then it sells 15 copies, and you never mention the book ever again. So I just assumed that would be what happened with mine, but for whatever reason, it really took off. I suspect the reason is, a combination of our love for the NHS, rightly so, and our love of disgusting stories.
Well, yeah. Well, you've gone into it a little bit. I was wondering if you had pondered on the success of it. Certainly, I read the book and I watched the drama. The drama shocked me. I loved the book, really enjoyed it, passed it, and I'm not just because it's Easter Monday, I'm not being nice, genuinely passed it around lots of friends. But the drama shocked me, and I think maybe it was just the fact that, it was in 3D. It was very powerful, so it was more than, a book of your experience. It was more of a statement on what was going on, as you say, in this treasured institution. Would you agree?
Yeah, I'm glad you thought that. I wanted to write the scripts to be very different to the book, to make it a realistic portrayal of life on the front line, and to be an examination of mental health within the healthcare professionals, which is where there are some very shocking statistics about suicide, in particular, amongst doctors and nurses and other clinicians. So, yeah, I made it quite dark. It's a lot less funny than the book, but hopefully gave people something to think about.
Yeah, and were you happy with Ben Whishaw as you?
I was absolutely delighted. I think he's just the most amazing actor, and he's a wonderful person. And I was so thrilled that he got a BAFTA for that portrayal. I thought the way he can do comedy and drama, within moments of each other is breathtaking.
Yeah, he was brilliant. He's kind of gentle and strong at the same time, which is not an easy thing to pull off. So Undoctored then, we're in different territory. What story is Undoctored going to tell us?
So yeah, it was a book about a year ago, and now I've been trotting around the UK on various stages, coming to Glasgow on Thursday. It's basically, if anyone's seen me on stage before with my This Is Gonna Hurt show, lots more stories about my life as a doctor, but also in this show I talk about life before medicine at medical school, where it turns out there was an awful lot of revolting stuff too, and also a bit of life after medicine, talking about what it's like being a doctor and a patient. And the spoiler for that is doctors make very bad patients.
Oh, right, okay. So is this autobiographical, Adam?
Absolutely, yeah. It's all the various diaries that I've kept over the years. And last time I was in Glasgow, I had a slightly extraordinary experience on. I just remembered when I left the stage, which was I went backstage afterwards, and there was a woman taking advantage of the toilet in my dressing room.
Right.
To be a member of the audience.
Welcome to Glasgow, Adam.
Yeah, it was extraordinary. And so the theatre staff kindly diverted her back to where she should be. And then I was like, oh no, has anything been nicked or anything like that? And nothing, all of my stuff was there, everything was fine. But she'd smashed through 2 bottles of wine and all my Twixes and Kit Kats, which make my very rock and roll rider backstage. No, it's all to play for at the Pavilion Theatre on Thursday.
Well, yeah, April the 4th. I mean, somebody's got to top that. You've just issued a challenge to the audience of Glasgow. You silly, silly man. My goodness,
no.
What is going to come now? And how do you feel about the performance element then? Do you enjoy that? Because, okay, you've had a career as a doctor, as a writer, obviously, but getting up there and strutting your stuff is a different thing.
It is a different thing. I actually did stand up for a number of years before I ever wrote my book. So in a way, it's nice coming back to that. And I'm definitely playing bigger rooms than I was when I was a jobbing comedian on the circuit. But the thing I like most, I think, is afterwards when I'll hang out in the foyer and sign copies of books that people have brought along or bought on the day, and just meeting people, a lot of whom have worked in the NHS, hearing their stories, seeing them. And also there's been a slightly weird thing that's happened in the last, on this tour that I've been doing, which is people have been introducing me to teenagers who I've delivered. They're like 17 years ago, you delivered this person. So they all seem to have come out all right. But that does make me feel extremely old.
I know. It's fun. My mum was a midwife many, many, many years ago, and we were always out and about meeting people, and they would approach her and say, oh, you delivered this one, and then you'd have the strapping child. So you think, all right, jolly good. So do you still feel a connection to medicine or not? Was it just a kind of, I guess now, a smallish part of your life, in terms of practicing as a doctor?
I do feel a very strong connection. I feel a lot of guilt about leaving, and I miss it hugely for the reason that everyone does these jobs in the first place, which is to help people. And the majority of my friends, the friends I met at medical school and when I was working as a doctor, and I hear a lot from them, and I still feel a need to do something. I'm obviously not working on the wards, but I work with a couple of charities very closely about doctors' mental health and healthcare mental health. But I am very much drawn back to it.
Yeah, gosh, that's interesting. You say a sense of guilt? Because I think probably for most people who work in the healthcare professions, or certainly a lot of them, I should say, it is a vocation. And I mean, to become a doctor, you know, in terms of obviously the academic qualifications that you need, and it's pretty exacting, particularly in those early years that you did. So to walk away from it must be a huge decision.
It was absolutely huge. And I think if it was just left to me, I'd have continued. But I think it kind of felt out of my hands. I had a really bad day at work. You know, when you're working on a labor board, the bad days are absolutely horrific. And I just realised that I wasn't made of the right stuff to do the job that I'd been doing. I didn't have the emotional exoskeleton or whatever it is to keep going. And I ended up just out of medicine and trying to work out what on earth might represent some kind of skill set that could pay the gas bill, which ended up being writing. And I never thought that I'd be gone for more than 6 or 12 months. I thought I'd sort of scratch that itch and then find a different specialty of medicine to try and go back into. But as it happened, I've it's kept going.
Yeah. And what kind of fulfillment then do you get from your work that you're doing now, the stand-up, the performance, writing? You've got your first children's fiction hardback coming out, Dexter Proctor, the 10-year-old doctor.
Yes,
that's autumn this year.
Yeah, I mean, I'm very, very busy with what I do with my writing, and I obviously know that the arts have enormous value, and it gives me huge pleasure to make people laugh on stage and maybe make people think. And it's great to hear that, you know, this book's been translated into that many languages or whatever. But, you know, nothing comes close to, when you're driving home from a labour ward 3 hours late, dogs in the cat, dinner's in the cat, covered in blood, radios blaring to keep you awake, and you've still got a smile on your face because you've done something useful. So one of the charities that I'm involved with the most is the Lullaby Trust, who look after families bereaved of babies and young children. And the tour shows that I do, we do a bucket collection at the end, or a card reader collection as it is, I guess, these days, to support Lullaby Trust. And amazingly, that's raised over £350,000 in donations over the last couple of years. So that feels like I'm sort of doing something useful. I work closely with a charity called Doctors in Distress, who aim to get the number of suicides in healthcare workers down to 0. At the moment, one doctor in the UK takes their life every 3 weeks, one nurse takes their life every single week. And so we're launching a tree planting campaign to get a memorial tree in every NHS organisation who wants one and has been affected by this. Because before we planted our first tree for this charity, there was no memorial in the UK to healthcare workers who've lost their lives in this way. It's so I'm trying tangentially to help my former colleagues, but I do very much miss it. And over COVID, there was obviously this big call out for doctors. Are there any retired doctors who might be able to help? I sent in my CV as a labour ward doctor who'd not worked there for a decade, and they said, I think we're all right. So that was really insulting.
Oh, well, listen, certainly in terms of your collection, I think Glasgow audiences, despite the fact that they might have nicked your 2 bottles of probably cheap white wine on your Twixes, they'll be very generous on that score, I'm sure. Adam, listen, thank you very much. So the Undoctored Tour has come to Glasgow, so it's this Thursday, Glasgow Pavilion, April the 4th, and also back to Edinburgh, but this time at the Playhouse. That's on August the 17th. So that'll be mid-festival, won't it? Yeah. Adam, thank you very much. Really nice to speak to you, and thanks for giving up a bit of your Easter Monday for us. That's Adam Kay.
Chris Moyles in the morning, he really is our saviour. He's cheeky, fat and funny too, and on his best behaviour. Tell your friends to listen in and they can have a laugh. Enjoy Chris Moyles in your bed, your shower or your bath. Chris
It's 10:26. Kay Adams with you to 12 on BBC Radio Scotland. It is, of course, April the 1st. Shirley says, I got caught out this morning by my children, aged 25 and 27. My son is going to visit my daughter in Australia and meeting in Melbourne. My son arrived yesterday. My daughter was getting the flight today from Brisbane to join us. Well, I got a message saying my daughter had missed her flight, was trying to find alternative flights, and then silence. My son messaged saying she only had 1% left on the phone. Typical of my daughter. I was just about to get onto the airline when they messaged a picture of them together saying, April Fools. Totally got caught out. Oh, I'd be raging at that. I would be blooming raging at that. Anyone else got caught out this morning or managed to pull a good prank on somebody else, or just tell us the April Fools that you particularly loved? Avril said, I remember watching the April Fools TV of the spaghetti harvest and believing it. Yeah, I heard a little clip of that on radio this morning. That was a corker. That was Richard Dimbleby. Was it Richard Dimbleby who did it? Yeah. And Panorama After All. Yes, it was a classic. We will be exposing the April Fools of today as we can find them a little bit later on, just before 12, of course, because 12 o'clock it's all bets off, isn't it? 80295 for your April Fools. What's wrong with me today? April Fools texts. I think I just haven't had enough chocolate. I think that's what it is. Still to come.
The sun is beginning to come out, and I have to say, we're delighted to be back here at Chelsea.
Yes, well, we'll be hearing from the Glasgow mum and daughter florist duo who are heading down there. It'll be May, of course, to take part in the very exclusive Chelsea Flower Show.
I got a pocket full of quarters and I'm headed to the arcade. I don't have a lot of money, but I'm bringing everything I made. I got a callus on my finger and my shoulder's hurting too. I'm gonna eat them all up just as soon as they turn blue. 'Cause I got Pac-Man fever. It's driving me crazy. I got Pac-Man fever. I'm going out of my mind. I got Pac-Man fever. I'm going out of my mind. I got all the patterns down up until the 90. I got Speedy on my tail and I know it's either him or me. So I'm heading out the back door and in the other side. Gonna eat the cherries up and take them all for a ride. I got Pac-Man fever. It's driving me crazy. I got Pac-Man fever. I'm going out of my mind. I got Pac-Man fever. I'm going out of my mind. I'm gonna fake to the left and move to the right. Spunky's too slow and Pinky's out of sight. Now I got 'em on the run and I'm looking for the high score. So it's once around the block and I slide back out the side door. I'm really cooking now, eating everything inside. All my money's gone, so I'll be back tomorrow night. 'Cause I got Pac-Man fever. It's driving me crazy. I got Pac-Man fever. I'm going out of my mind. I got Pac-Man fever. I'm going
2, 1.
Mornings on BBC Radio Scotland.
Get up, get up, get up. Let's make love tonight.
I think I might have been the victim of an April Fool. Somebody told me that we had Simon Calder here today for our travel surgery and said, give out the number, Kay, because he's going to be here to answer any questions that you've got. 80295 is the text number. 08085 92 95 00. We're coming to him straight after Snow Patrol, I was told. And hey, no Simon. But don't worry, he will be here a wee bit later. But we're chasing him around the world at the moment, trying to track him down. You know what he's like. He's a very elusive man. But he will be here for our travel surgery. I don't know, he's probably in a bunker eating chocolate somewhere. Wish I was. Well, no, I'm glad to be here. Don't get me wrong. Very happy to be here on Easter Monday. Bit of chocolate would help. I can't lie. Now, the surge in second-hand clothing sales shows no signs of abating. They increased by 18% last year and are on track to make up 10% of all clothes sales. So how much of the popularity is down to an interest in sustainability, or is it, like everything else, just a fashion, which might go out of fashion, I guess? Fashion journalist Julia Robson is with us. Morning, Julia. Good morning. They're having a laugh now, aren't they? Vintage and second-hand clothes seller Tamara Hawkes is here, and I know she's here because she's sitting right in front of me. So, Tamara, I'm sticking with you because everyone else on the end of a line is letting me down here. So, how did you get into selling second? Do I call them second-hand or do I call them vintage? I've got to get my language right.
You can say vintage. Vintage is meaning 20 years and more, so second-hand is a bit more of a broader spectrum of that.
Thank you for that. I'm going to write that down. Every day's a learning day. I never realised that. So 20 years or more is vintage. Right, OK. So how did you get into it?
So I got into it, I would say, more business-wise during COVID. So I'd always had a kind of passion to sell my own clothes and make a bit of money once I wasn't really kind of feeling them anymore. And during COVID, I found myself as an art graduate with an art degree and in a shielding household. And I kind of was a bit stuck for things to do for work, like many people especially. And I kind of just thought, what am I good at that I can do from home? And I knew that I was good at selling things online and I could post them in a safe way. So I just started buying things off of eBay and kind of going to these outdoor markets and sales and finding pieces that I thought were trending online and that were vintage, and started selling them for a profit. And then it just kind of took off from there, really.
So you're obviously interested in fashion. So was that your driving motivation then, rather than, save the planet?
I would say I first got into it from fashion, and then I think as you learn more along the way, you want to sell pieces of clothing that have come from good places and you learn more about fashion. And I think with things like Instagram and TikTok, there's so much information that you can learn now at your fingertips, and people are more aware of where their clothes are coming from than ever before. So I think along the way I learned a lot about making clothes and selling clothes and the importance of sustainability in that as well.
Yeah, and I guess when you say it like that, that's a pretty good way in, because, if it does raise people's awareness and, they become better informed about the industry and how it works and perhaps concerned about elements of it, then they are going to be more invested in it, aren't they?
Definitely, yeah.
So who's your market then? Who's into it, do you think? So 10% of all clothes sales, the thought is, I think, by the end of this decade, that it will constitute that amount. Where's the fertile ground at the moment?
So I would say my market ranges from probably, I'd say age 16, 17 up to about kind of mid-30s, I'd say, is what I usually find. I'm from Edinburgh, so I do quite a lot of pop-ups in Edinburgh, and there's a huge student market, definitely. But I've noticed in the past several years, the past couple of years for sure, that the market's also growing and expanding. And I think lots of mums will come with their daughters to the sales, and they'll come with them, and they're kind of selling this experience, and they're kind of sold on it, of coming to these markets and meeting the seller behind the clothes and behind these curated collections. And I've often been in kind of markets, and the mums are going, oh, my daughter got me into this, or, you know, my sister got me into this. And it's kind of this trend that's kind of like a fever that's going around at the minute of thrifting your pieces, and you kind of get more of a kind of good feeling inside when you find something that's very rare that no one else has got. And it's a great feeling when you've got something in your wardrobe that you know that is just a very special piece that no one else has.
Yeah. So the entry group, and I think we've got Julia now with us. Have we got you, Julia? Hi. Sorry about that.
Hi there.
Yeah. So the entry group, Tamara was telling us, is maybe the kind of younger generation, but now kind of spreading out to older generations as they learn more about it. I suppose if you think 35 plus, that age group has a different experience, obviously, and different attitudes that have come over years, that who wants second-hand clothes. I mean, you know, back in the day, that was not your aspiration, was it? And also, you know, enjoyed fast fashion. Is that the sort of group that we're going to have to turn around now then?
Yeah, well, there's quite a few reasons for why it's become so popular, but I've got a statistic here that in America, 80% of US consumers are engaged in some sort of second-hand e-commerce. They're either buying it or they're selling it. And it is a way to, you know, to make a bit of money. It's that sort of passive income. But you know, there's lots of benefits apart from the sustainability. So there is that sort of individuality that you're getting. So there, and it's almost like the thrill of going somewhere and you don't quite know what you're going to find. And also, you might even get a designer brand. You might, you know, that might be something that you find.
Yes, so perhaps an item of clothing that would be out of your price range if you were going to buy it new, but is affordable if you buy it. I'm trying to stay away from the second-hand expression.
It's pre-loved.
Pre-loved, got it. Thank you very much. Isn't it funny, the difference of language that it makes? You know, that you will buy the same item much more happily if it's called pre-loved than you would if it's called second-hand. I mean, it's bonkers, really, isn't it? But you can absolutely see why it's powerful.
It is. I mean, you know, I mean, when I was younger, I used to go to jumble sales. I mean, you never hear that.
Tamara's looking at us blankly here.
Well, I think now the big thing is the car boot sales. In Scotland, there's obviously not as many, but in London, there's quite a few, and you can go there and get some amazing bargains of designer pieces and all sorts. But that, I think, is maybe similar to jumble sale. I think that's more of a different kind of style. But that now is the trend, and people are doing it, and you know, all sorts.
But again, we're back to terminology, because Julia, essentially, it's the same thing, isn't it?
It is. I mean, it's this circular economy that apparently is going to become the norm rather than something that you kind of have a sideline in. And another reason that they're saying it's become so popular is that if you walk down the high street, everything looks the same. It's become very homogenized. So actually, when you go to some of the second-hand shops, you can actually find something a bit different. So that's a trend that's going to appeal to women of all ages. I mean, one of the main things is it is cheaper. Because in lots of surveys, 70% of people are starting to use secondhand because it's just cheaper. So that's fundamentally the reason. But it is, you're right, you know, the ability to afford luxury brands and then to kind of feel as though you're doing something good for the planet because you're being sustainable.
So how is the fashion industry responding to this, Julia, then?
Well, it's quite interesting because there's been a huge lawsuit. Chanel have just won a lawsuit because they feel, I mean, that the problem with a lot of the pre-loved sites is you can get counterfeits. And what they should be doing is selling the authenticated goods with these serial numbers. But actually, one of the main competitors to luxury goods is second-hand luxury goods, which is quite interesting. And, of course, the brands are crossed because someone else is getting their profit. which is quite interesting. But it's going to carry on growing, and also there's hiring, which is becoming very popular. So you're going to a wedding, rather than go out and buy a brand new outfit for £300, you can hire it for £16, and then you only wear it once. And that's another sort of second-hand, because obviously a lot of the clothes there are second-hand, and you don't even have to worry about, I mean, apparently, you know, if you spill red wine on it, it's fine, you can still hand it back. That's becoming very, it's becoming very popular with younger people, with the kind of Gen Z hiring, you know, not just the Friday night dress, but, you know, weddings, all of that sort of thing.
I think we would advise against trashing the garment, wouldn't we, Tamara?
I think there's some rules behind it where if you do a little spill in it of some sort, you can pay an extra fee. But I think most of the time you're fine. But I've had a few dresses I've rented, and usually it goes fine. But they are usually for the events that involved a bit more drink, because they're these, you know, kind of rare parties or balls or something. But
Yes, be careful. Julia, thank you very much indeed. Julia Robson, thank you also to Tamara Hawkes. We have found now Simon Calder. You'll be delighted to know. Simon, hello.
Yes, and I'm here at London Waterloo Station. The extraordinary thing is that there's actually trains running, and many of them are on time, which is not a picture you're going to see if, for instance, you were setting off from Glasgow Central trying to get to London. You're not going to get any further than Milton Keynes without a famous rail replacement bus.
Why, what's happening today?
Engineering works. Don't you know there's a bank holiday on? So the line's been closed since Thursday night. I was actually on a northbound train from Euston on Thursday. I mean, I wasn't on the last helicopter out of Saigon, but I assume it felt pretty much the same. And that's been causing problems all weekend. We have also had, all sorts of issues on the roads, in the air, particularly people flying into Faro. But there is some good news today, which is that British Airways is 50 years old. Yes, 1st of April. 1974. It's not an April
It's not an April Fool's. I was just waiting. I thought there's a punchline coming, and I don't want to act too quick.
Not.
No. Oh, right.
No,
I mean, I don't know how many people
today
are going to be celebrating that, are they?
Well, quite, yes. Maybe 90. Well, just to give you some idea, I did a bit of work on how much it costs to fly to places. 1974, you could fly to Tangier in North Africa. That would cost you £62.50. At the time, or rather in current money, that's £567 one way. But if you want to go now, 50 years on, it will cost you £25 on our old friends Ryanair. So yes, it might not be comfortable, or it might not allow you to check in lots of luggage, but you're going to have a nice cheap flight.
Yeah, though it's interesting about flight prices, isn't it? Because I imagine, and you'll correct me, I'm sure, Simon, if I'm wrong, it kind of was expensive back in the day, and only those and such and those could afford it, and then it got super, super cheap. But now probably the prices are going up again.
They are. I mean, we're nowhere near as bad as things were in the bad old days of when there wasn't really any competition for British Airways. I mean, the cost of a return trip to New York, about £3,500 return. Wow. Getting to New York. I mean, the good thing was you could fly from Prestwick to New York. The bad news was that you couldn't afford it. But you're quite right. I think probably 2019 was the time we hit maximum opportunities at minimum cost. Then we went into COVID, and since we've emerged from that, you're absolutely right. Prices typically going up kind of 50% for airfares, and still lots and lots and lots of us chasing a limited number of airline seats and holidays, so it is getting expensive.
Yeah, and of course we have that wonderful concept of dynamic pricing, which is being translated to absolutely everything now. Well, listen, Simon, now, I know that you are kind of stuck for time right now, but you're going to be back from 11 to do our travel surgery, so I will let you go into the wilds of Waterloo Station. Was it Waterloo? I think it was Waterloo.
It is down at Waterloo, yes.
Jolly
the busiest
good.
station in Britain.
Jolly good. Go get yourself a cheap Easter egg and be munching that by 11 o'clock. 08085 92 95 00 to speak to Simon. Anything at all about travel, if you're looking at fixing something up for later in the year, or perhaps travel gone wrong, because sadly we know that does happen. God, if there's anyone stuck at Faro Airport, I saw those pictures on social media last night. 3-hour queues to get through passport when you actually arrive. Happy holidays. Give us a call if you were caught up on that. 80295 is the text number. Did I say the phone number? Let me say it again. 08085 92 95 00.
Fed up with not having anything to celebrate? Bored with having no reason to party? Getting that sinking feeling when you wake up in the morning and there's no presents waiting for you? Here at Special Occasions, we think we have the answer. All new birthdays. Birthdays are a great excuse to celebrate, get drunk, and receive gifts and cards from people. They can be conveniently taken on the date of your birth every year. Plus, you'll automatically get 1 year older. And because birthdays always happen on the same day every year, you can wave goodbye to forgotten celebration worries. Get a birthday for someone you love and put a smile on Mama's face. From the makers of anniversaries, appointments, and bank holidays. Birthdays restricted to 1 per year unless you're the queen.
It's time for a bit of music, and then we're talking about the Chelsea Flower Show. Here's Charles.
Fish heads, roly-poly fish heads, eat them up, yum. Fish heads, roly-poly fish heads, eat them up, yum.
In the morning, laughing happy fish heads. In the evening, floating in the soup.
Fish heads, roly-poly fish heads, eat them up, yum.
Ask a fish head anything you want to. They won't answer, they can't talk.
Fish heads, roly-poly fish heads, eat them up, yum.
I took a fish head out to see a movie. Didn't have to pay to get it in.
Fish heads, roly-poly fish heads, eat them up, yum.
They can't play baseball, they don't wear sweaters. They're not good dancers.
They don't play drums.
Fish heads, roly-poly fish heads, eat them up, yum.
Roly-poly fish heads are never seen drinking cappuccino in Italian restaurants with Oriental women.
Fish heads, roly-poly fish heads, eat them up, yum. Fish heads, roly-poly fish heads, eat them up, yum. Fish heads, roly-poly fish heads, eat them up, yum. Fish heads, roly-poly fish heads, eat them up, yum. Yeah.
This category is
That's how to
known
get the
as-
food.
Well, what do we have here?
Mornings on BBC Radio Scotland.
Oh, somebody spotted an April Fool. We're thinking this has got to be an April Fool. Hasn't this got to be an April Fool? Please tell me it's an April Fool. Somebody has alerted to this. Edinburgh Trams, they have posted on the Twitter that due to some rare occurrences of bad parking close to our network impacting the operation of trams, we have worked with a supplier to develop a solution to instantly remove these vehicles so that our customers are not impacted. Here's a copy of the plans we've just received. And they have a little diagram there of a tram which has some really fierce-looking reinforced tungsten spikes on the front of the tram to ensure full removal of parked cars. Well, we have to hope that is an April Fool's. Can we say quite confidently we think that is an April Fool's? Yes, well done. Thank you to the anonymous person that sent that in. If you have spotted an April Fool's this morning, then please do alert us to it and we can tell everyone else. Spoil the party. Well, we're not supposed to do that. We're going to do that anyway. 80295. And of course, any April Fool's pranks that either you have managed to do this morning or have been done on you, then do let us know. Apparently, Gary Innes have taken the floor in his request show on Facebook, saying that he'd been invited to take part in Ant and Dec's show with Girls Aloud. Made me giggle, says this texter. 80295. Well, a bit of an April Fool for me last night. Well, 31st of March. I was out in the garden gardening. Now, when I say I was out in the garden gardening, I was out in the garden, is really what I'm saying, because I'm not particularly knowledgeable about what to do out there. But I stomped around with my trowel, dug up bits of dirt and rammed in some primroses, which for me is pretty good because, I don't know, there's something about this weather that just makes you think you want to go out there into nature. And of course, one of the signature events on the calendar, the gardening calendar, is the Chelsea Flower Show, a very exclusive club. This year it will feature mother and daughter florist duo Louisina and Lauren from Glasgow. They will exhibit their work in the floral design event in May, representing Scotland, and they are both with me now. Good morning, both.
Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. Well, I mean, how did you get entry to the Chelsea Flower Show, Louisina? I mean, it looks as if it's a very exclusive club, as I say.
It is a very exclusive club. How do you get entry? That was our thoughts also. Well, I think because of we are a duo, mother and daughter, we are quite unique, and we are flower farmers in Scotland, but we're also florists as well. So we are probably the first, I think we are most possibly the first flower farmer and florist to exhibit in the creative space at Chelsea. So I think maybe we just appeal to them.
Wow. So you basically put in an application, do you? And then they decide whether or not you're worthy of being part of it?
Yeah, you've got to be worthy. And they decide, Kay. But I think we must have been worthy because we've got there.
Well, absolutely. So, I mean, Lauren, are you allowed to tell us anything about what you're doing, or is that top secret?
We are allowed. So our embargo was lifted in February, so we're able to talk about it and shout it from the rooftops now. So we're going to be exhibiting a sculptural installation. So it is floristry, but it's artistic floristry.
Right.
And it's called The Cracks Which Appear and the Things That Grow From Them. And this is going to be a botanically dyed silk panel, which we'll be dyeing with the dyes made by us from the flowers and plants on our farm. And then fresh flowers are going to be suspended in glass vessels behind the silk from a metal armature. I hope you're still with me.
Yeah, absolutely.
And hundreds of little holes will be made in the silk panel so that the flowers will appear as if they're growing from the fabric. So it's going to be this kind of gravity-defying garden of flowers from within the sculpture. And the mechanics that support and hydrate the flowers through this kind of network of glass will be visible. And this is deliberate on our part because we want to highlight the zero waste approach to floristry that we have, and a practice which shuns oasis and shuns plastic, and these sustainable mechanics kind of extend beyond practicality and become part of the whole sort of effective architecture of the sculpture. And the idea is that beauty and functionality become a whole live entity. So that's it in a nutshell.
Wow, gosh, it sounds really impressive. So, it's a piece of art, isn't it?
Yeah, we would say so.
So who came up with the concept?
Together. We came up with it. I believe it's been sort of 6 years in the making since my mum and I started to work together. I come from a visual arts background. My mum's been a florist for 45 years. So it's a real kind of culmination of both of our interest in growing flowers, which we do in South Lanarkshire near Glasgow, and in having a botanical dyeing process using natural fabrics and floristry and art just colliding all at the same time.
Wow. So, Lewis Steiner, you used the expression, and Lauren did too, of being a flower farmer. And I guess I'd never thought of that before. So what is it to be a flower farmer?
Well, we actually grow all our own flowers. Everything that we'll be using at Chelsea, we grow here on the farm. We don't just grow here, we grow from seed. So it grows from seed into the soil, and then it goes into a vase, and then it becomes a magic creation that we make. And it's really to let people know that you can grow in Scotland. We work seasonally, so different seasons we grow different flowers. And it's been a magical experience for me also, and for Lauren, to grow all our own flowers and to be classed as a flower farmer in Scotland. We do have a polytunnel. We have 2 polytunnels, the tiny one and the bigger one that we grow flowers in also. But it's just amazing what you can grow, Kay, in Scotland. And we grow for ourselves. We don't grow commercially. Everything that we use, everything we grow, we use, and we also dye, and we also dry all for the winter, for when flowers are going to sleep. So we can have flowers in winter.
Because I suppose you're talking about sustainability, and that's at the core of your exhibit. But flowers come from all over the world, don't they? I mean, we love fresh flowers, but from a sustainability point of view, I guess, they cost quite a few air miles.
They do, yeah. And, Kay, you mentioned yourself that you were pottering about your garden. I do believe that, here in this country, we are a real nation of garden lovers and nature lovers. And I think a lot of people don't realise the impact of cut flowers, which, like you mentioned, they do come from all over the world: Holland, Colombia, Kenya, Ecuador. And flowers that are grown in the UK produce 95% fewer carbon emissions than those that are grown overseas. Yet 90% of flowers that are bought in this country are imported. So, we are part of this burgeoning community of flower farmers who are making a real tangible difference for a better industry and a more sustainable model for floristry by not importing flowers, and also going beyond that, growing them ourselves and not using pesticides or fluorofoam or plastic, and also using peat-free compost. So it's a real kind of holistic practice, which is about, taking floristry back to nature.
Yeah, and a side of things that probably doesn't get enough airtime. It's really interesting to hear about it. Just going back to the practicalities of Chelsea Flower Show, that's a very elaborate sounding exhibit that you've described to us. How are you going to get all that down there?
The logistics of it.
I'll bet.
Yeah. Well, we'll get
We're used to it.
I'll let you go, Lauren.
Sorry, Mum. We're not in the same room, so
that's all right.
We work events, so transporting things that are alive to a destination is something that we're well used to. I guess it's just uprooting ourselves from our very quiet, rural, slow life into the hubbub of London, which feels like quite the jaunt. But we're pretty confident we can pull it off, and the RHS are very supportive and helping all their exhibitors get there and do their thing. So.
Yeah. Oh, well, listen, it's been really lovely to speak to the two of you. So much in there. And is it Days of Dahlia is the name of your company?
That's right, yeah.
Or Dahlia, whatever.
I was looking at the word and I thought, is this a Dahlia? Is it a Dahlia? I'm sure people will have their choice on that. But listen, best of luck.
FM.
Your smart speaker.
And on BBC Sounds.
BBC
So text them to 80295 or indeed pick up the phone and give Simon a call. 08085 92 95 00. Got somebody here who wants to know how they can get to Paris this weekend because the marathon is on. I'm sure Simon will be able to help. And do you think music was back better in the day, or even better back in the day?
Oh, baby, 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 I got so much love in me. Oh, baby, 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 baby.
A study has found that modern song lyrics are more simple, repetitive, angry and self-obsessed. So we have a battle of the music generations coming up.
All the conversation.
In the Love Act, there are many different positions that can be adopted. Strap yourself in.
On BBC Radio Scotland.
And we're doing a bit of April Fool's spotting this morning as well, of course, because it is April the 1st, April Fool's Day, and my thanks to John McNabb on Twitter/X, who has pointed out an absolute corker for me. I'm not going to spoil it for everyone yet, though we are going to do a bit of a spoiler just before 12 o'clock. But this one from the Herald, very good, guys. Very, very good. It actually kind of drew me in at first, and I thought, well, I might consider that. But yeah, wee corker there from the Herald. Well done. If you see any other April Fools, do let us know, 80295, or if you've managed one yourself this morning and you're feeling rather smug about it, let us know, 80295. Very much appreciated. Right, it is time for our travel surgery. Have we tracked down our travel? Yes, we have. I can hear the sounds of Waterloo Station in London in the background. Hi, Simon.
Yes, back with you now, and it's livening up, but wherever you are travelling, please, good luck today. And bear in mind also that if you're heading south of the border this coming week from Thursday onwards, more industrial action that's going to affect companies such as Avanti West Coast and LNER and Cross Country and TransPennine Express, all of whom run from Scotland into England, and there's going to be strikes and cancelled trains and goodness knows what.
I mean,
all the
that
way